Page 23, the House Joint Resolution 548 has been moved to the regular calendar, patroned by Delegate Bell of Stanton. House Joint Resolution 548 designating the week of September 10th in 2017 and in each succeeding year as National Suicide Prevention Week in Virginia. Reported for the Committee on Rules. And Mr. Speaker, there are two floor amendments.
The gentleman from Stanton, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Joint Resolution 548 designates the week of September 10th in 2017 and each succeeding year as National Suicide Prevention Week in Virginia. National Suicide Prevention Week is an annual week-long campaign in the United States to inform the general public about prevention and warning signs. This resolution allows Virginia to coincide their celebration with the National Suicide Prevention Week. I would ask that the resolution be passed.
The clerk will report the floor amendments.
Floor amendments offered by Delegate Simon to the introduced version. There are two. First Amendment, after line 19 of the introduced version, insert the following. Whereas almost 50% of all successful suicide attempts involve a firearm, such attempts being successful more than 82% of the time, making suicide by firearm the most common and most lethal means nationwide. And then, Mr. Speaker, amendment number 2, after line 29, insert another whereas clause, which reads as follows. Whereas the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention endorses incorporating suicide prevention education as a basic tenet of firearm safety and responsible gun ownership, and recently announced a partnership with the National Shooting Sports Foundation to launch a new firearms and suicide prevention education program nationwide in 2017. And
the gentleman from Fairfax, Mr. Simon.
Mr. Speaker, members of the body, I applaud the gentleman for introducing this important resolution, and I think that suicide prevention is something that's important to all of us. It is a growing problem across the country and in Virginia as well. And in reading through his resolution, preparing to come to the floor today, I noticed what I saw as maybe an omission. We do talk a lot about, we in the gun safety and gun violence prevention community talk about the issue of suicide by firearm and how important it is. In fact, it's 50% of all suicide. So to have a resolution about suicide prevention and a suicide prevention program that didn't address very specifically the leading cause by far of suicide, I thought was an omission that ought to be remedied. And so these amendments seek to add a whereas to explain why we're incorporating firearm safety, and then to add the firearm safety program that's, again, an initiative of the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I hope it will be the pleasure of the body to adopt the amendments.
Mr. Speaker, point of order.
Mr. Rock.
Mr. Speaker, my question would be, and I'm not sure because it's a close call, but when we look at the underlying legislation, it doesn't give any specifics in any of the whereases as to what the cause of suicide would be, and would it be in keeping with the spirit and purpose of the legislation where we add one specific whereas provision stipulating a means whereby suicide is accomplished? Would that not be contrary to the underlying purpose of the resolution?
Why don't we come up here and discuss it?
Never misses an opportunity.
The gentleman from Fairfax offered two floor amendments that were dealing with a specific way of committing suicide. That was the only addition of a manner of doing this. The general thrust of the original resolution was to designate the topic of suicide, not how you did it, how you went about it. So I'm going to rule it's beyond the scope of the bill. Shall the resolution be adopted? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 93, noes 2.
Ayes 93, noes 2. The resolution is adopted.